On the night before Halloween in 1978, Michael Myers escaped from a mental institution and returned home to Haddonfield. On the night of the 31st, he killed several teenagers before being stopped by his doctor, Sam Loomis, as he was attacking 17-year-old Laurie Strode. What was Michael's intention upon returning to his hometown? Was his original plan to murder, or did something set him off, making him return to his primal ways? In this video, we examine Michael's return to Haddonfield and break down when did he decide to turn the streets of Haddonfield red. On October 31st, 1978, Michael Myers made his way home and followed an unsuspecting Laurie Strode around the streets of Haddonfield. Michael was first spotted watching her outside of Haddonfield High School. Then he was seen watching her as she walked home from school. Then he followed her all the way home and motionlessly watched her from the neighbor Mr. Riddle's backyard. We know that at that point, Michael was targeting her, but we don't know of his intent. Later on, we learned from Sheriff Brackett that someone had stolen some rope, some knives, and a Halloween mask from Nichols' hardware store. But we don't know when the items were taken and if they were taken at the same time. We need to look at what we do know and examine the timeline. Annie told Laurie that she would pick her up at 6:30 in the evening to carpool to their babysitting jobs. It was shortly after pickup that they ran into Sheriff Brackett outside the hardware store. Nichols must have recently been broken into as an alarm was still ringing. Let's go back earlier in the day now. When we first see Michael at the beginning of the day, we don't see a wide enough shot to tell if he had the mask on or not. The only clue is that we hear the breathing sound that would soon be associated with Michael wearing the mask. But there's no definite answer there. Although remember that Laurie had seen Michael wearing a mask several hours earlier as she was still in class at the time. For school to be in session, it must have been 2 o'clock at the latest when he was seen watching her in the window. There was at least 4.5 hours before they arrived at the hardware store where they were still working to turn off the alarm. Sheriff Brackett didn't seem to be in any hurry when he bumped into Laurie as she walked home from school, so it's reasonable that the alarm at the hardware store was not yet triggered. Being a small town in the 1970s, it's probable that the hardware store closed at 5 p.m., which would make Michael breaking into the store to take the knives and rope sometime after 5 o'clock a realistic possibility. It is quite possible that Michael simply stole the mask from the store earlier on in order to hide his identity. Michael followed Laurie around all day and never made a move to approach her. Although after following her home, Laurie was alone, and Michael could have killed her then if he wanted to. Timing-wise, it would make sense that Michael decided right then that he would return to the hardware store to steal the knives and rope to kill Laurie and her friends later on. So it is clear that Michael decided to return to the hardware store at some point, meaning that murdering Laurie was not his initial intent. If you follow the original continuity, Michael escaped and returned home to his house at 45 Lambkin Lane. It was there that he noticed his sister all grown up and decided to follow her. If you follow the current continuity, Michael simply wanted to return home at all costs, and upon seeing Laurie randomly appear on his doorstep, decided to make her his new target. So the answer, we may never know, but it is possible that Michael never intended to go on a murder spree, but just wanted to return to his childhood home by any means necessary. The house may have been sacred to him, and it is possibly the only home that he ever knew before being locked away in the sanitarium. If Laurie never appeared on his doorstep, he may not have been set off, and he may have just stayed at his house on Lambkin Lane before being apprehended later on in the day. Maybe nobody would have been killed, or maybe he was waiting for someone new to be the object of his obsession so he could once again go out trick-or-treating that Halloween night. For more horror theories, check out the ScaredStiffTV YouTube channel.